NPK, the NPK Show. NPK to all the viewers around the world. You're watching the NPK Show.
Welcome back, everybody, on a lovely Sunday. Well, I'm guessing it's lovely. It's probably cloudy and pissing down with rain if you're in the UK. Today, we're on the road with the podcast. We've been in Birmingham and we've been listening to Colin Bell from Mammoth P, Callie Blackwell, the author of Billion, and also Jeff Ditchfield, the founder of BudBox. So we went along to Birmingham. We had a little listen to what they had to say, and we've recorded the audio for you guys to have a little listen in. So first up, you'll definitely know this guy. It's Colin, the founder of Mammoth P. We had him on in about October, podcast 126, roughly, I think it was. So he's on next. He's going to be talking all about Mammoth P, what he's been up to around the world. So enjoy, and I'll be back just before the next podcast. Enjoy.
Thank you for the wonderful introduction. Can everyone hear me okay? Yeah. Okay, so again, quickly, this is my introduction slide. My name is Colin Bell. I am the co-founder and chief growth officer for Growsentia. Growsentia is engaged in cannabis cultivation. This is what we do. And so that's pretty much what this presentation is going to be talking about, and the technologies that we develop to enhance crop productivity across many crops, although our company is focused on the cannabis industry. 100%. We develop liquid organic microbial soil additives that act as a catalyst to maximize plant nutrient uptake. For a quick background, very quickly, as a research scientist at Colorado State University, I had a team. We were very successful at publishing a number of papers focused on plant microbe interactions. We were very, very successful in academia. The intent of all our research was focused on ultimately developing microbial technologies that could enhance crop productivity, quality, and yield to bring value to farmers. At one point around 2013, we realized we weren't really making an impact as scientists. Although we were publishing a lot of papers and we had received millions of dollars of grants from the federal government, we hadn't really deployed that technology or launched any technology bridging the gap from academia into industry. So we decided to make a change. We got $1 million grant. We flipped our lab from a fundamental science lab to a applied science lab and started thinking about how we could make technologies to get products in the hands of growers. Our first product, Mammoth P, was developed at Colorado State University. This product is a liquid. Hey, pardon. It's hard for the audience to hear. Can you guys take that outside if you want?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, pardon us. Mammoth P is a liquid organic microbial soil additive that acts as a catalyst to maximize plant nutrient uptake to significantly increase, thank you very much for doing that.
Okay.
Cannabis yield by at least 16%. I left the university in March 2015 to start our company, Growsentia. Just me, working in a one-car garage in a rental house, making a product to try and make a difference as a scientist. 3 years later, we're now selling, as was mentioned, in over 900 stores across the country. I visit growers and farms and grow shops all over the world now. Seeing the world one farm at a time, one grower at a time. I'm here to tell you this is an amazing industry, and it's here to stay. Today I'm going to talk mostly about our science and how we think about bridging the gap of bringing nature and natural processes into cannabis cultivation, and how that can bridge the gap into changing the world by bridging natural technologies into broader agriculture. And this is really important. I'm going to start by talking about the importance of plant microbe interactions. If we understand that, we can understand the importance of these technologies and how they can not only enhance cannabis productivity, but productivity to feed the world across many, many crops. I'll talk more specifically about how our company thinks about developing these products as a core team of PhD soil microbiologists, not only me, but we have a huge team doing that. And so I can tell you about how we make Mammoth P and how it functions and how it works. Then I'm going to finish by talking about the impact I think we make as manufacturers of microbial products and as growers and farmers who start to incorporate microbes into their cultivation facilities. I'm going to start by saying it is a fascinating time in the world. And it's a more fascinating time to be in the cannabis industry. The cannabis industry is projected to grow to $100 billion by 2029. Our state in Colorado alone sold over $1 billion worth of cannabis-related products last year. That's an amazing number. And I think just in Colorado, just in one state in the United States, they sold over $1 billion worth of product. Flower, a plant. It's amazing. And it's going to continue to grow. This is real. And it's real not only because of recreation, but because of medicine. And cannabis as a plant and as a seed has one of the most nutritious qualities of seed, and it's a full plant-derived protein, which the world needs. And for textiles, it's a multi-purpose crop that's going to change the world, and it's not going away, and it's going to be adopted across the globe. And I've already seen it. Through Europe, obviously through the States, through South America, it is everywhere. It's everywhere. It's everywhere. I've traveled through the UK. Isn't the UK the largest exporter of cannabis products? It's here. It's here.
Yeah.
For sure. Moving forward, we could talk about this particular topic. Getting back on track, I also think it's a very challenging time as this industry progresses for cultivators. How are cultivators going to continue to increase productivity and quality to meet the growing demand? And that might seem like a far-off challenge, being in a market like the UK, where those demands probably have not exceeded production yet. But in Oregon, or California, or Colorado, those are real challenges. In most places in the world that are adopting cannabis cultivation as a commodity crop, this is a challenge. We think this also presents an interesting opportunity for all agriculture segments, including cannabis, for innovative technologies that can significantly increase crop yield without significantly increasing operational input costs. It's clear. We need to produce more with less. And in cultivation, in this industry and across the board, successful farmers are going to have to focus on increasing precision. And the highest precision agriculture crop I've ever dealt with is cannabis. And this is the formula that we like to use to demonstrate growing with precision. It's a very simple phenotype formula, and I'll walk you through it. Pardon me if you can't see here. P for precision agriculture, or phenotype, because again, this is a simple phenotype formula, meaning the optimal crop quality and yield that we desire, is a very simple function of optimizing G, plant genetics, and optimizing E, and I write this E sub F, which is environment, which includes lighting and climate and fertilizer inputs and technologies. And optimizing, to finish out the formula, the interaction between genetics in the environment, because not all plants work well in all environments. So for precision agriculture, you have to find the plants or phenotypes that work the best with your crop or your management practice. And then the final term, standard error, we want to minimize the variability from crop to crop. If we follow this formula, we can succeed across any agriculture segment. But this is easier said than done. But it works. For example, the improvement of plant genetics has significantly improved the quality of cannabis in the purpose of this talk from over the last decade. And the evolution of cannabis landrace strains to the strains that we have available to us today is the perfect example. And you could substitute maize in this example, or corn in the UK, I think maize, corn, whatever. And by integrating precision agriculture delivery, fertigation systems, increased nutrient technology, we've been able to significantly increase crop yield beyond any historic precedent. And this is true across every crop. This formula works. And I'm here today as a PhD soil microbiologist to talk about how soil microbes fit into this equation. Soil microbial technologies are predicted to be the missing link, the key innovation that's going to allow farmers across all agriculture segments to improve crop yields, to meet the growing demands for all food crops and for cannabis. Soil microbial technologies are predicted to significantly displace chemical fertilizer applications over the next 20 years. We already know that when we add microbial technologies, soil microbes, into conventional cultivation and farming practices, farmers can achieve significantly higher yields. And this is true across many, many crops. And the largest reason for this is because nutrient use efficiency, delivering nutrients to plants effectively so they can maximize their development and growth, is a huge problem in agriculture. And using biology and microbes in agriculture is very intuitive. There's no plant in nature that exists without soil microbial interactions. Soil microbes represent the largest single, most important natural resource we have on Earth to improve agriculture. In nature, there's more than 10,000 microbial species in any one handful of soil, and over 5 nonillion bacterial cells covering the surface of the Earth. And that's a 5 with 30 zeros behind it. And that's an enormous amount of energy and biomass that, as scientists, we're focused on harnessing to improve agriculture, to innovate agriculture, to support crop yields. And microbes are critical to support ecosystem functioning and plant growth because they cycle important nutrients, allowing plants to maximize nutrient uptake in the very simplest form. And microbes have been supporting plant growth since the very beginning of time. Soil bacteria, in particular, evolved hundreds of millions of years before any other life existed on Earth. And they created an environment that allowed all other life to evolve. Plants evolved about 700 million years ago into a microbial world. Their roots extended into soils teeming with microbial life. And these interactions within the rhizosphere or root zone is where microbes support nutrient cycling and plant growth. And as we develop technologies, as scientists, microbial technologies to support plant growth, we have to think about these processes, and we really have to think about microbes from a soil ecology perspective. In nature, plant roots extend and interact with diverse microbial communities in complex soil systems to cycle nutrients liberating nutrients from the soil so plants can take them up. And there's one key concept in soil ecology that's critical to remember, and that's community. No microbe acts alone within the rhizosphere, but acts as a group or a community or a consortia to facilitate these important ecosystem functions. And as bacteria and fungi interact within the rhizosphere or root zone of microbes, they support plant health and growth by maximizing plant physiology and metabolism, by making nutrients bioavailable so plants can take them up. Microbes actually protect plants against pathogens by growing along the rhizosphere root surfaces, blocking potential infection sites, and competing against pathogens. And they stimulate plant immune responses through chemical signaling. And we know these same functions that support plant health and growth in nature can also support plant health, development, and yield in agriculture systems. This is some of the research that we published while at Colorado State University and before, demonstrating the importance of plant-microbe interactions. In nature, plants go as far as selecting specific rhizosphere microbial assemblages to maximize their success at taking up nutrients, so they can compete against other plants in nature. And some of our conclusions suggested that plants are able to do this so well in nature and succeed by harnessing the power of nature, harnessing the power of soil microbes, because they have tens of thousands of microbes to work with. And generation after generation, season after season, they can actually evolve and experiment with different microbial assemblages until they optimize those associations and interactions. And this actually brings a real challenge, or presents a real challenge for us, for humans in agriculture. How can we use microbes to optimize plant growth with precision if we're conducting precision agriculture? This is a real challenge. In nature, plants do it through trial and error, but we aren't afforded that luxury. In nature, plants have tens of thousands of microbes to work with. It's almost impossible for us to provide that much diversity. In nature, plants evolve over time and shape the microbial community within the rhizosphere over decades. And typically we work with annual crops. And so there's a simple answer. In order for us to be successful at using microbes in agriculture to maximize crop productivity and yield, we have to understand how to select the right microbes. And this isn't always easy, because not all microbes are created equal. And this is the problem as scientists we set out to solve. And this is the formula or blueprint that we felt represented a viable product that farmers could use, that growers could use to bring themselves value, to enhance crop yield. Following soil ecological approaches, we wanted to have a consortium of microbes. We wanted to make sure they were functionally targeted, that they could actually cycle specific nutrients that plants needed, and that we could measure that. We wanted to focus on efficacy, making sure that microbes were compatible across a wide range of management practices. So when growers use microbes, we were delivering live microbes. And we wanted to make sure, above everything else, that we had effectiveness, that microbes could actually significantly and continuously increase yield. And that's what we set out to do. And our first target, as far as focusing on function, was focusing on phosphorus. Not to get too deep in the weeds, this isn't going to turn into a deep scientific talk, but phosphorus is a critical macro element that's important for plants to grow across the entire growing season. If you're a grower in this room, you know how to relate phosphorus to growing cycles. It's really important for early root development, it's really important for bloom, and it's really important for specific biomolecules that all people, all animals, all plants need. There's a real problem with phosphorus in agriculture, though. And there's been many studies that show how phosphorus can build up in soils for decades and build up in substrate and become unavailable to plants. What we know is that as farmers and growers add phosphorus to substrate and phosphorus fertilizer to substrate, up to 70%, apologies because you can't see this, can become almost immediately unavailable to the plants due to natural chemical binding and chemical transformations. And what we knew as scientists is that microbial communities, especially functionally targeted ones, could actually unlock these bound nutrients, transforming phosphorus back into plant-available forms, maximizing plant nutrient uptake to significantly increase plant development and plant yield. And this is how we did it. We wanted a microbial community that could target phosphorus cycling, so growers could use microbes with precision to help plant phosphorus uptake. So we collected soils from across the world to identify those that can most effectively facilitate plant phosphorus uptake. We created a novel platform that we actually patented recently that could rapidly select very functional microbes that could effectively maximize plant phosphorus uptake and had really good efficacy, meaning it was very compatible across a lot of soil and soilless media in a lot of different environments, and it had a very long shelf life. And these are very critical, not to get into the details, for any kind of natural product or any product period that's getting deployed into agriculture or management. Quickly, this is how it works. We train microbes at the community level to function at higher levels. Generation after generation, we can train microbes for specific functions, just like you might a plant trait selection platform. I'm going to skip over the details on this, but be happy to come engage me after the talk if you want to hear more about this. This is the final consortia of microbes that we have in our product. 4 microbes, highly functional, patented, and very effective. We started off with over 10,000 species, and our platform selected these 4 after about 100 generations. And as scientists, we're heavily data and discovery driven. Not only do we validate our technology, with every grower that we engage, I don't sell products. I provide solutions. And there's not one grower using Mammoth P that didn't get a free sample first, or one commercial cultivation facility, because we know it works. But we also want to validate our technology with the broader scientific community. And this is one of the papers we recently published in the Journal of Horticulture, peer-reviewed scientific paper on the effects of our technology, Mammoth P, on cannabis sativa. This is available on our website, and I think it's open access. Even more importantly, we're developing technologies that can be used across a wide range of management practices and a wide range of crops. This product can be used across any substrate, any nutrient line, and with other additives. And most importantly, it's really easy and simple to use, which is critical. As we did our R&D, we talked to hundreds of farmers. And what we realized is growers and farmers of any crop don't want to change a thing, but they need extra value. And they need new solutions. So we wanted to find technology to make technologies that were additives that growers didn't have to change a thing, but could incorporate this technology along in their feeding regimes and experience great results. And that's the case with this product. You know, we get thousands and thousands of testimonials. You know, our 3-year anniversary was March. And I left the university, just me. We have a team of about 50 people now. We're selling all over the world, again, in over 900 stores. And it's because it works. And I want to finish by talking about the impact. I think this is most important. I achieved a PhD. I think most people do if they take it to their education at that level because they want to make a difference. They want to make an impact. And I think we do make an impact as manufacturers of microbial products. We know that soils in agriculture are degraded severely with management. And we know that we can start to restore agricultural soils by incorporating microbes into our cultivation practices. Ultimately, we can reduce chemical inputs by the use of natural and biological processes. But it's critical to understand that no sustainable technology is viable or will ever make it into the market unless it can bring value to growers and bring value to farmers. And that's where I think microbes do a great job of bridging the gap and actually bringing profit and bringing value to farmers by increasing yield. And I want to say also that in agriculture or growing, there's no silver bullet solution. I like to use agriculture and farming and refer to it as a team sport. It takes a lot of players and a lot of solutions to remain successful and to be successful. And not only along with microbial technologies, but growers are going to have to continue to push plant genetics and precision agriculture technologies and data to inform those technologies to remain successful. Again, in an increasingly competitive industry. And that might be hard to see from where you're sitting, but believe me, come with me. I'll take you through Washington, Oregon, where farmers are freaking out because too many people are growing too much cannabis. Big time. The ones that are innovating and adopting precision into their grows are staying. And lastly, I like to finish by saying there's a lot of solutions. We have a lot of decisions that we can make as cultivators. I have a farm too. That first page was my 62-acre cannabis farm. And we have several 5,000 square foot greenhouses. You know, we do that because we can, and we have the liberty to do that. And we do that strictly for agriculture research because we can. Yeah.
We believe you, Colin.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Come visit.
More acres.
I'll say that my stack of internship applications is off the hook.
Yeah. Throw them all away. You got us now.
There you go. Come on over. What I want to offer though is that out of all the solutions that farmers have and growers have, and there's trade-offs with every solution that we make, adding microbes into our cultivation practices is a simple, easy, scalable approach that will allow farmers to increase yield and increase their bottom line while adopting sustainable technologies and starting the movement of bringing nature back to agriculture, which is the impact that I really want to make as a scientist. I'll end the talk here. I really appreciate your time. This has been a great turnout, and thank you very much. Do we have time for questions? Or you want to stay on schedule?
Yeah, that's fine. That's cool. If you want questions and answers.
Yeah, either now or later.
Questions and answers to Colin, if that's okay with you?
Yeah, sure. We're happy to do that, yeah.
So it's all in the one bottle.
Yep, we have one product, different sizes, and this is it right here. This is a liter size.
And so you just add that to water and food.
Yep, you can add it to your nutrients, you can add it to water. It works really well in synthetic growing environments, mineral nutrients, and or organic nutrients.
And you add it throughout the vegetation and the flowering stages?
Yep, that's right.
And it's organic?
It's organic, organically certified, OMRI certified in the U.S., OMRI certified in Canada, California Department of Agriculture, organic certified, everything, yeah.
So one part for the full cycle from growth to flower all the way to the end.
Yep, so here's what we recommend. We're talking about applications of Mammoth P now specifically. This is a really concentrated product. We recommend 0.1 mil per liter, which is highly concentrated. So this treats 6,000 liters. Because it's a bloom stimulant, we think about phosphorus, and we're trying to tie that to knowledge of growers. We think for sure that we should use Mammoth P the last couple of weeks of veg through bloom. I think it's very interesting to use in flush, and I'll talk to you more specifically about that later. And Many growers have started to adopt this, especially in the U.S., because that's where we started in Colorado. Now we're in almost every state in the U.S. As a clone additive. And so just mixing a little bit, it really stimulates root growth.
Yeah.
We see more clone vigor, we see more quicker root growth, and we see more root biomass. Because it's so concentrated, because we use so little, growers are typically adding it in, keeping it through 4 to 6 weeks of veg, and then just pushing it through bloom. And they see great results.
So not in the beginning with seedlings.
Seedlings or clone for sure. Yes, it works very good.
So literally all the way through.
Yep, either during the last couple of weeks of veg through bloom or start at the very beginning and just push it all the way through at that low application rate.
So
You're going to see wonderful results.
Sorry to ask one more question.
No, go ahead.
But so then, for a grower that might want to flush their product before the end, towards the end, before they harvest, would you be able to carry on adding that?
I would.
Okay.
And yeah, Dan does.
Thanks very much.
It's really biologically it makes a lot of sense. This product will continue to. Yeah, go ahead. This is a guy that already does it. Some people, some growers really have a problem adding anything through flush, and I understand that. I don't tell anyone to change, but I'll tell you biologically, for me, it makes a lot of sense, and that's what I would do, because there's residual nutrients that are just in the media that don't go away through a flush, but the microbes will actually carve out, allow your plant to take up, slight residual nutrients, maximize quality, maximize yield. It's not going to sacrifice quality at all, and you're going to actually put on some really significant weight, harvestable weight during those last couple of weeks of flush instead of just a water weight that pretty much goes away during curing.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, see, that's a great question. It does absolutely work with hydroponics, but I didn't think it would. These are soil microbes, and I felt like I made this product for agriculture, quite frankly. I wasn't thinking about cannabis during R&D. I was thinking about feeding the world naturally, sustainably. In Colorado, someone asked me at some point, hey, does it work on cannabis? I was like, I don't know, but let's find out. And it worked. And it worked so well that we started to focus the company on the cannabis industry. I'm really glad because it's really changed my life in a lot of wonderful ways. We tested it. There's a lot of hydroponic, a lot of cocoa growers in Colorado, and that's what we were dealing with right there as we're kind of validating the effectiveness and validating the business model. And the growers are seeing incredible results, at least 16% increased yield. They were killing it. And the truth is, these microbes will still interact with the rhizosphere. There's more labile nutrients, but they'll still cycle nutrients. And what happens is, this is pretty interesting. One of the things I showed early on in the slides is not only do microbes cycle nutrients and make them more bioavailable, they actually open up the plant. And they maximize plant physiology and metabolism. And what we found in a lot of the we're talking huge commercial growers that are using Mammoth P and hobbyist growers alike, that they found that their plants were drinking 20 to 30% more with the Mammoth P applications. Because the plants are just opening up, so they're naturally taking up more, and you can account that increased take-up with assimilation into the biomass and the yield. Yeah.
Just the quantity of the water affect it all. I mean, it's hard water in there, and you've got large amounts in the water.
So that's a great question. So these microbes are, a lot of growers use RO. What we did was we tested that. There's growers across the world using Mammoth microbes. What we did is we weeded out in our selection platform, functional trait selection platform, and there's other details involved in that. We weeded out the microbes that wouldn't persist well in those environmental fluctuations. These microbes persist very well across a wide range of environmental conditions, chemical conditions. They can withstand a pH range between 4 and 8.5. They withstand chlorine and chloramine concentrations within reasonable levels in a wide range of hard water and other water. It just works very well. Pardon? Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and it's surprising. You have to test that. But what we had to test that, let me answer that. So early on, you're not sure exactly what your product or your technology is going to do, but after it's validated, and again, we have growers using this all over the world. I don't ask them to change a thing. I don't ask them to use RO. I don't ask them to bubble. Just mix it in with your nutrients, or you can mix it in with your tea or your water, depending on how you're managing, and to deliver it to the roots. These microbes will persist even in a heavy synthetic nutrient reservoir for up to 2 weeks, and that's how these commercial growers are using this product. They have 1 to 3 to 500 gallon reservoirs that are using for nutrient tanks, and they're mixing Mammoth microbes right in there. And I thought, as a scientist, and I didn't realize how skeptical I was as a scientist, but scientists typically are skeptical. And I thought for sure Mammoth microbes wouldn't work. They wouldn't persist for that long, and they do. And it's because these microbes are very robust, and the microbes, and not all microbes are, but we were able to weed out the microbes that wouldn't persist and have a very robust product as a result.
How does it affect the pH then?
Doesn't affect the pH at all. And so it's really concentrated. These microbes run near neutral. And, you're thinking about the concentration, 0.16 mil per liter. They're really not, they can't, it's that low of a concentration once it's in a mix. So they run perfectly fine. However, what's interesting, and I'm glad you kind of brought this up, if you forget the pH before you add the microbes into a nutrient and it's a little hot or whatever, it's fine. These microbes, because they have a wide threshold range to persist against pH acidic 4 to 8.5, you don't have to worry about it. You can just pH after you add the microbes into the nutrient reservoir and you'll be just fine. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so you can use that in combination with other products like CalMag or pH.
Yeah. You just use this as an ingredient in your feeding regime.
Carl Gork is using that in America, and he's telling me the results.
Yeah, I'm great friends with Carl. Yeah, and he has a great product, Photosynthesis Plus. It's a wonderful product, and the reason we're friends is because we know our products work well together. Carl sells as much Mammoth P as I do, and all of us. And I talk about community. Most of the microbial companies in the U.S. we're friends because we know our products work together, and we have this bigger movement and this bigger vision. It's about bringing nature back to agriculture. And it's amazing we can work with people that we can consider competitors, but we consider peers and friends. And we know our products work together. We know it's the right thing to do to start pushing microbes and nature into agriculture. And so we work very well together. We're the glue that kind of holds community together within the cannabis space in America for sure. Yeah. Any other questions? I know we're probably running long. I'll be around. I'm happy to answer questions through the evening.
No, thank you for coming.
Okay.
So that was Colin with Mammoth P, and he's actually with us next week as well. But because we've had this week and the last podcast with Colin, and he's been talking all about Mammoth P, we thought we'd take the opportunity to speak to him about what he's seen in the hydroponics industry on his travels, because honestly, he's probably one of the most hardest working people that we've met. So we thought we'd take the opportunity to speak to him next week about what his experiences are in the industry and how he's been getting on around the world. So that's on for next week. Also, just before Callie comes on, don't forget to follow us on Instagram at NPK_hydroponics. You can see what we get up to on our day-to-day work lives over there. So check us out. And it's also a great way to get in touch with us. DM us on Instagram with any questions you've got, any thoughts on the podcast, or just to say hello. So next up, we've got Callie. She's the author of Billion 7 Billion. If you're in the UK, you may have seen it on the programme called This Morning, and on a programme called Loose Women, talking about what she's been through with her little lad. And here she is now to tell you what she's been through. And the stories, it was just brilliant to listen to. Very emotional. And for some people, open their eyes a little bit. So here's Callie. Enjoy.
I don't really know where to start, so I guess start at the beginning is probably the best place. Those of you that don't know my story, my son was diagnosed with leukemia age 10, and that was in 2010. 2 years later, he was diagnosed with a secondary cancer. Tumours arrived in his throat. And the cancer that he had then was so rare that there was only 5 people in the world who actually had it at the time, but he was the only one to have it as a secondary cancer, which made him the boy in 7 billion. And so the journey that he took me on, I started to blog about him and I started to write about him because he was so incredibly rare, in the hope that people, if other people had this cancer, they would find us and we could share notes and, hopefully find an answer for it. But what happened was the only treatment they could decide was a bone marrow transplant, and he ended up having 4 in 10 months. They told us that nobody's ever engrafted with a bone marrow transplant after 50 days. And at day 46, Darren had 3 catastrophic infections, 2 in his hand, 1 in his mouth. And they told us that the only thing keeping him alive was his antibiotics. That was it. So we were asked to take him to a hospice. He was now 14, and he was given 3 days to live. They told us that once we stopped the antibiotics, the infections would take him. But it didn't. And we moved to the hospice, and he carried on, and he held on. And it got to around about day 70, and he was starting to get very, very anxious. And I'd asked for another bone marrow aspirate to be done to absolutely prove to me there was nothing there in his bone marrow, because I couldn't understand how he was still alive. But his organs had started to shut down, and we were told this was the beginning of the end. And it was around about day 70 that we'd had the results that there was absolutely nothing in his bone marrow, and this was now just the time we had to wait. And Darren became very anxious because obviously he'd been told he was going to die, but it seemed to be taking forever. And at one point he even begged me to take him to Belgium because they just legalised euthanasia for children over 12. And I told him, no, it rains in Belgium, you don't want to go there. So we kind of stayed here with him, and they were trying to up the morphine and add sleeping tablets and basically sedate him. Now, Darren had been very open and honest in his death plan and had said that he didn't want to die off morphine because he wanted to experience his death. He told me they weren't going to take that from him. They'd already taken everything else, and he wanted to experience that part of the end of his life. So when I saw him comatose most of the time on morphine, obviously I asked them to take it away, but they couldn't because he would become very anxious. So I looked at what the hospice workers had nicknamed the magic under the bed, which they nicknamed afterwards. We had a jar so big. A friend of mine had given me some cannabis and said, this might work. And we didn't really think anything of it. We made the tincture to put in a vape pen, but it wasn't strong enough. So we just had this jar of stuff under the bed, and we didn't really do anything with it. And I just thought, maybe what if I give him loads? Cannabis is supposed to chill people out. If I give him loads. So I did. And that evening, he refused his morphine. He didn't need it. He refused another drug called cyclazine, which he'd been incredibly addicted to. And he slept and he was chilled out. And for the following 5 days, it was beautiful. The only drugs he had was this tincture I was giving him. And it was going to give me the death that he wanted. And it was going to give him the death that he so deserved to have, which was peaceful and nice and calm and not off your face on morphine or screaming in agony. And so we were happy. For me, this was a miracle already. He was going to die how he wanted to die. And that would made me so happy already. What happened 5 days later when the bandages came off his hand, where his hand was incredibly infected. I mean, there was necrotic. There's pictures on the internet if you squeamish, don't look. That he'd gone. The bandage came off and his hand had healed. And the doctors couldn't understand it, couldn't believe it. So they did a blood test. And I said, you told me 5 days ago there's nothing there. And lo and behold, there was his count, and it had come from nowhere. And the doctors ran around frantically, ripped up the do not resuscitate forms that we'd had to sign, and said, "You're no longer dying. What do you want us to do if you now spike a temperature?" And he said, "You can leave me the fuck alone." and since that day, he hasn't had one pharmaceutical. Hasn't had one pharmaceutical drug since he left the hospice. He continued to use cannabis for a while, and I watched his count double and double and double as I gave it. And I didn't want anybody to be able to tell me this was a coincidence, because I knew already it wasn't, but I had to have proof. And I knew I only had this one opportunity. So I took the cannabis away, and his immune system halved. So I gave it back, and it doubled. And I did that over a 6-week period to watch for myself. So I knew for a fact that this is what had a profound effect on him. Fast forward another 6 months, and I'd withdrew the cannabis because I thought, well, he's better now. I don't need to keep giving it to him. And I'd got involved with the Bristol Cannabis Club, and they kept telling me, you need to meet Jeff Ditchfield. You need to see Jeff Ditchfield. And this name was eluding around everywhere. And Darren had been attempting to kill himself for the following 6 months through starvation. He got down to about 26 kilos because he'd accepted he was going to die. And as a 14-year-old, he'd accepted he was going to die. He planned his funeral. He planned everything, the music, everything, the fancy dress costumes we were all going to have to wear. He had planned everything. And to have that taken away from him, he said it's like, he described it as if you can see everything you've ever wanted through a door, and it's beautiful, and you know it's going to be the end of all the pain and everything, and then you get so close and someone slams it in your face and tells you not now. And he couldn't cope. So he tried to starve himself, and he tried to kill himself a number of times. They wanted to section him, sedate him, and force feed him rather than talk to him. They said he didn't qualify for any mental health help. So I pleaded with him and I said, let me take him to Spain. I want to go to Spain with him. If I come back and he's still not well, then I'm going to have to sign him. I knew I'd have to anyway, because they make your children a ward of the court if you don't do what they want you to do. So I knew I only had this one opportunity. And so I took him to Spain, and that's where I met Jeff. And that day, Jeff gave us a tiny little syringe and said, just give him a very small amount the following morning, to which we did. And within half an hour, my husband and I at the time were preparing some lunch, and I shouted down to the kids, do you want anything to eat? Half expecting this kind of no, which I'd had for the last 6 months. And to which Darren shouted up, make me loads, I'm starving. And, that right in the feels. And so we did. We made him loads of food, and he didn't stop eating for 12 hours that day. I had to go down to the supermarket 3 times. He didn't stop eating, and same again for the next day and the next day and the next day. And 12 days later, I took him back to hospital, and he put on 4 kilos, and he didn't want to die anymore. And the doctor said, wow, that holiday did him the world of good. I said, yes, it was the holiday. There was no way in the world I could tell them at the time what I'd done, because there's the threat of social services. There's that real threat of social services that. And the real threat of social services for me isn't that my children were going to care, because they're pretty robust kids, and I think they'd probably be all right. My concern would be that Darren would lose the only medicine that had worked for him, and the only reason why he was still alive, and that would be a death sentence to him. And so that was my concern, and that's why I kept quiet until he was almost 18, and my book came out back in April, when I felt that he was safe enough to not be taken by social services. But even though I was quiet for those sort of 2 years, I was still helping people in the background. People would come to me and say, I need the same miracle you got. So everybody that came to me, I would tell them exactly what I did, risking being outed by any one of those people contact me. Could have been undercover or anything, but I couldn't take that risk. I couldn't hold that information to myself when people were so desperate for it. So I've been working alongside Bud Buddies for a number of years now, and helping children and helping the parents of them. And when I recently went down to Parliament, I didn't intend to get arrested when I went down to Parliament. That wasn't my intention. I'm blaming Jeff for all of that. But as I said when I was a loose woman, I would do every day of a 14-year sentence if it meant that my son's still alive. And the people that I've helped so far, the parents of the children are still going through this. They can't stand up and talk like I can. I have to be their voice. I've been asked by so many of them to talk on their behalf, because they can't. They're still treating their children. Their children are still very young. There's a real risk to every single one of them. They're going to lose their children. This is why I do what I do, because I feel I didn't choose this. It chose me, that guy, and I can't walk away from it. But yeah, I'll go on to kind of how I discovered the food and how food has an incredible impact on your body when you have cancer, or even before you have cancer. When you're initially diagnosed with cancer, you'll be told to eat as much crap as you want, because it's going to fatten you up, because the chemo is going to make you lose weight. That's probably one of the worst things you can do, especially with the processed foods they encourage you to eat. Meat, sugar and dairy are the 3 things that feed cancer the most, sugar being the most prevalent. And I only found this out because after Darren's second cancer turned up in his tonsils, he'd had the tonsils removed, but there was some lesions in the back, and they weren't sure whether they were cancerous or not. So they had to take the rest of his. They took about a third of his soft palate and a lot of his throat out, and they had to test it all. Now they gave him a PET scan beforehand. Now I didn't know what a PET scan was. I sat there, and the woman brought through this big syringe of what looked like tar to me, and I said, what's that? And she said, it's irradiated glucose. I said, all right, well, why? And she said, because she said, sugar feeds cancer quicker than anything else. She said, without sugar, cancer cannot survive. I went, what is just like normal sugar? She went, yeah, glucose. I went, okay. I didn't really think any more of it. I was watching this horrible, nasty stuff go into him. And she gave me a Geiger counter, actually. She said, if it starts going up, move away from him. And I thought, what the hell is that doing inside his veins then? You know what I mean? But you can't say no. You can't say no to any of this. So I moved away from him because it went up. And I thought no more of it until I went home that evening. Now, go back a little while, Darren had pancreatitis because of the treatment, and he'd lost 2.5 stone, and he couldn't cope with any of the dairy supplements they give you. So they gave him another supplement called Maxigel, and she gave me a 5-kilo tub of this stuff. She said, put it in everything. So I did, put it in everything. And 6 months later, his tumours turned up. I looked at that tub when I got home, which was now empty, 100% glucose. And I thought to myself, that's when the light bulb went off for me then. And I thought, why does a dietitian give children on oncology wards 100% glucose when a radiologist knows that glucose feeds cancer quicker than anything else? What's going on here? This is something very, very wrong. And I then started to dig deeper and deeper and deeper. And I noticed that the dietitians, their funding for their education comes from the meat, sugar and dairy industries. They are biased. They are so biased. But the thing is, the dietitians, I don't blame the dietitians. I don't blame the doctors. They don't know any better. The doctors and the dietitians and nurses only know what they're told. Who's telling them? Why are they telling them that? Okay, I'm not going to start talking about conspiracies, but when you've been on the cancer money train, like I have been for such a long time, you can't help but start seeing that why are dietitians giving dairy supplements to cancer patients when dairy feeds cancer? There's an IGF-1 hormone in there that actively feeds cancer. Why are they giving it to people? Sugar, meat, everything in the hospital. The food is horrendous. Anyone that's been in hospital, the food is absolutely horrendous. So I urge people, and the reason why I wrote my book really more than anything, it's not for money. I know I've been accused of doing it for money recently. I get 11p a book. Let me just put that out there. I didn't do it for the money. I did it so that I wanted more and more people to understand that you can help yourself and that you can prevent even being a statistic of a cancer. You don't have to go down that road. Please start looking after yourself. Prevention is far better than cure. And I tell you now, I wouldn't wish cancer on anybody. It's horrible. It's horrible. And, I think we're being lied to, obviously, and it's very difficult to counteract that. But if we can prevent even having to go into that, I think meat, sugar and dairy, if you can cut it out of your diets. I advocate, I haven't had sugar for, I can't even remember how long now. Darren hasn't had sugar. He's training to be a vegan chef and he's fucking good at it, which is good because I hate cooking, so I get him to cook for me. But, just a few dietary changes. And what we have discovered as well, that anybody, if you do get cancer and you're going to use oil, give it the best shot it can. Don't be eating crap as well and trying just to take oil, because you've got to give it a chance. You've got to do something. You can't just rely on oil. Like you wouldn't just rely, or you shouldn't just rely on chemo. We've noticed that people that we help, the ones who are still here to tell the tales, are the ones that change their lifestyles as well. It bought the others time, but they're not still here, most of them, So if there is anything wrong with you and you are taking oil, please look at your diets as well. We're lied to about our food. You really got to start taking care of yourself. I don't want to hear from any of you saying that you need my help. I don't want that. Okay, I want prevention and I want education and I want people to understand that you can help yourselves. And that's why I wrote my book. And also to prove to people, to show people that cannabis is a medicine and it's not something to be, to be scared of or to be lied about, and we can't keep lying about it. And again, normality. You just talk about it like it's normal. I smoke out in the street. If anyone catches me, they catch me. I pretend it's normal because it is. If you don't believe you're doing anything wrong, if you act like you're doing something wrong, then so just pretend you're not. You're not doing anything wrong. And yeah, they can't arrest us all. Have I got to go now?
They normally say what you think about, you think about, so you need to be very careful where your mindset is as well.
Yes, absolutely.
Focused on even doing things like meditation
as
well.
And positive thinking. Like
yeah. And have a positive mindset.
Yeah.
They do say that there's two things guaranteed in life, and one's taxes and the other one's death.
Yes. yeah. Death's got your mind. Yeah.
I think it's really, really important that as long as you become friendly with the fact that yes, you're going to die, life becomes a lot more easier.
Yeah. Acceptance. Yeah. But yeah, a positive attitude. Thank you very much. No, thank you for having me. Thank you.
And that was Callie Blackwell, the author of Boy and 7 Billion. If you enjoy reading, make sure you go and check out that book. You can buy it on Amazon, any Waterstones, any good bookstore. It really is a good read, and it tells you really in depth about what she went through as a mother. Really, really good read. Next up, we've got Jeff Ditchfield, the founder of Bud Buddies. Now, he talks a little bit about Bud Buddies and what it means to be a part of his movement. And also, he has a few rants. Really interesting guy, quite funny as well. Have a listen, enjoy, and we'll be back after he finishes.
I can't go to their stadium. I've got an invite. to advise Americans on how they can treat serious illnesses with cannabinoids. I can't get in there because I've got convictions for supplying medical cannabis to people here in the UK. And it's really annoying that my American publisher has to pay taxes. So I'm being taxed by the American government. I'm being invited by Americans to go and help them medicinally. And the federal government say, no, I can't go in. So that's really annoying. So I think tonight I'm just going to rant about shit. Well, I remember when Callie was talking earlier, it reminded me of that first time that I met the Blackwell family, which was in Spain. And when I was reading Callie's book, there was reading a bit about where she met me, and she referred to me being impassive.
Rude.
Grumpy. Yeah, I'll come back to that later. Yeah, rude. I prefer direct.
Direct,
It's a nicer word and more accurate. But the main reason I was impassive because Darren looked so fucking ill. I just didn't show any emotion because I couldn't. All I wanted to do basically was fucking cry. That's why I was impassive. And when we went back to my villa, and Darren was saying he had no appetite, I knew he was bullshit, like I told you. And I remember taking him to one side, and a 14-year-old kid, who I think he weighed about 26 kilos then, and I was asking him why he had no appetite, why he wasn't eating. He said, oh, I'm just not hungry. I just knew he was bullshitting. So I said to him, no, come on, tell me the fucking truth. So he said, well, if I don't eat, Jeff, I'm going to die, and then they won't be able to hurt me anymore. And hearing that from a 14-year-old kid, I was thinking, this is wrong. And Callie had told me how she very bravely treated Darren when he was in hospital. And he was such an amazing kid, I thought, you know, how the fuck can this law be respected? 14 years in prison for helping the mum of a dying fucking kid. And that's what myself and Bud Buddies have been doing ever since. And on the 23rd of February, and despite it being referred to as the UPA event, it's not, it wasn't, Paul Flynn invited people to come to Parliament and break the law to see what happened. So I answered that call. And I was talking to a news crew from RT, and two coppers came over to me. I'm sure some of you have seen the pictures of the biggest, fattest fucking copper on in the UK. But anyway, so I told them I was in possession of some cannabis oil with intent to supply it to the parent of a dying child. So he then said I was under arrest. So I was placed in cuffs. Long story short, why? Police are complaining throughout the country that their budget's been cut by 20% due to austerity. People who have their houses robbed, burglaries aren't being reported. Are being reported, but no officers going out. They get a crime reference, yet they've still got time to break into someone's fucking house because they're growing 5 plants because they're trying to treat themselves or a loved one. It's wrong. That law cannot be respected. And it's many, many years ago, 2004 actually, that it was explained to me by a very wise man called Howard Marks that the war on drugs is actually a war on people. And that's what it is. And it was about 2 o'clock in the morning in the Beggars Belief in Grill, of all places, smoking some lemon haze if I remember. That what do you do when your own government declares war on you? Well, you've got 2 choices. You can surrender or you can fight back. And that's what I've been involved in for 18 years, a civil war. And now, prohibition, the prohibition of cannabis is killing people in this country. It's heartbreaking for me when a parent contacts me about their child, how they want access to cannabis, and due to various circumstances, they won't take the risk of possessing it or supplying it. It's really, really tragic. And I want to explain to you, or try and explain to you, without getting too fucking emotional with this one, but this is one, a lady who contacted for buddies within the last month. Hi, my husband passed away today. He had a grade 4 glioblastoma. He died of a seizure. He was left on the floor for hours waiting for the ambulance to take him away. Anyway, the police came and started filling in the forms and asked me for a list of all the medications he was on. Excuse me. I'd given him CBD and cannabis oil. As soon as I told them that I'd given him cannabis oil, CID got involved. And I could no longer sit with my husband alone. The police officer had to be there. While my husband was lying on the floor and the police officer was talking to me, I was treated like a criminal. And then they took my laptop away. On the most heartbreaking day of my life, I was treated like a criminal, and have now said that he will have to have a post-mortem. By the way, the tumour has shrunk since giving him the cannabis oil. I'm in the late 50s, and he was in his late 50s. We're not doing anything wrong. I truly believe it was making him feel better. I was treated like a criminal, worst day of my life, and it's not yet over. They will be coming back to question me. I've lost my best friend. Can you please help me? So I got involved, I got in contact, and without giving too many details away, CID cautioned her, took a statement from her. They also took some cannabis oil that she was in possession of to send off to a lab to have tested. And her husband had to have a post-mortem. Luckily, if there is any luck in this, the coroner, who's in charge of this, declared that the cannabis oil would have had no negative effect and no influence on his death. But this poor woman has just lost her husband, had to go through the trauma of a post-mortem, and then run the risk of prosecution. And it's still not over, because even though the coroner has said it had no impact on or negative impact or involvement in his death, then she's still got the trauma of, are the police going to charge her? I'd like to think not. But I was arrested a month ago for being in possession of a cannabis oil to supply to the parent of a seriously ill child. And over the last week, I've been in Brighton with Jan, and we've seen quite a few interesting people. People which I've never met, but the reason they've contacted us is mainly because of their children. We saw a couple of young parents who had a 15-month-old child on Monday. This kid has had seizures all her life. The medication she's been on hasn't helped whatsoever, and she can suffer 200 seizures a day. And while she was with us, she was twitching and ticking in front of us and having seizures. So I gave her father some cannabis oil, tincture, a formulation that we've seen positive results with over many years at BudBox. he took her into the toilets at the pub we were in and gave her a few drops, brought her back, and within 30 minutes there was a slight improvement. So her parents went home with the tincture, and late last night I had a phone call, and Jan and I had another phone call today. They're now giving the young child 1 drop every 3 hours throughout the day, and there's been a huge reduction in her seizures, in the intensity, in the duration, and for the first time since this child came onto this earth, she laughed, she giggled, and how can that, again, be punishable by up to 14 years in fucking prison? I mean, what am I guilty of? And what's Jan guilty of? Helping a desperate parent of a seriously ill kid, and the result is her parents heard her laugh for the first time when 6 months ago the doctors were saying that yeah, they could lose her at any time. And epilepsy is a horrible, horrible illness, disease. Every time kids have a seizure, there's brain damage caused. And the other thing with cannabinoids, not only can they reduce the symptoms, the amount of seizures, the durations of, there's also evidence to indicate that THC can actually generate new neural pathways around damaged areas of the brain. And what's stopping research and access to this fantastic plant with medicinal properties is prohibition. And that's why it needs to be fought. And the only reason prohibition is successful, the Home Office thinks it is anyway, but the only reason it's successful in the Home Office's view is because it works through fear. I have so many people who contact me and say, Jeff, I'd love to do what you do. I wish I could, but I've got kids, I've got this, I can't do it. I understand all that, I do. But that's how prohibition works, through fear. And if you feel that you can't get involved because of your kids, then you think about the poor parents out there whose kids are fucking dying. They can't speak out anyway because they'll lose their kids to social services, as Callie said. So if your kids are healthy, then for fuck's sake tonight, give them a massive hug and thank your lucky stars. But these parents who've got kids who are seriously ill and in danger of dying, they haven't got a voice. We can be their voice. So please think about it and join us at Parliament on July the 6th, is it, Dorita?
Yeah.
Dorita, sorry?
Dorita.
Dorita!
Just remember, I eat doors. I eat doors.
So it's, yeah, July the 6th, isn't it?
Yeah, July the 6th, yeah.
Yeah, so we're going to Parliament. I mean, who knows when I'm going to get arrested again? Pretty sure I will be. But interestingly enough,
You next.
at Parliament, the morning of Parliament, I was on Sky News with Gav from THTC, who makes great t-shirts, by the way. And yeah, I announced publicly that I was going to go to Parliament in possession of THCA with intent to supply. And when the police officer asked me what I had, I told him quite freely that I was in possession of THCA with intent to supply. The Home Office have told me that THCA is not actually illegal here in the UK. So my arrest was unlawful, as I see it. So when the Metropolitan Police drop the charges, I will then... Exactly. I will instruct my solicitor to sue for unlawful arrest. And again, shows how stupid prohibition is. And if you haven't seen it, there's an episode of the Kyle Files. Yeah, have a look at that. I'm in it with the mother of a 30-year-old kid who's a police officer. So Bud Buddies are supplying cannabis oil to a police officer who's using it to treat her terminally ill son. And that's how fucked Prohibition is. So please come and join us at Parliament, July the 6th. And I was also going to say is, I understand it's a Q&A session, but I know there's a few people here. I've chatted to some people who were here earlier as well who want to speak to me privately. So trust me, I know it's late, but I'm going to hang around here until... So if you want to speak to me privately about anything, then just grab me later. Right, thank you for listening.
So that was Jeff Ditchfield, or is founder of Bud Buddies. Hopefully you enjoyed today's podcast. On the road, next week we're back in the booth, myself and Thomas. We're with Colin from Mammoth P, and we're talking about the industry. And Colin's just a really cool guy to chat to. He's world knowledge, worldly wise, and just a really genuine, nice guy. It's just always a pleasure to have him in the podcast booth with myself and Thomas. So tune in next week. Thank you, as always, for being with us for podcast 145. And don't forget, podcast 150 is the big one. It's live. We've got Slim from Slim's Hydroponics. We've got Jay from Hydro to Grow. We've got Aidan from Pro Hydro Washington. And we've got Hydro Jimbo from Trafford Hydroponics. So we may have some other guests as well, waiting on some replies. So make sure you tune in, catch that one. See you all soon. Have a great Sunday if you listen on Sunday. If you have a great week if you listen through the week. Take care. Chat soon. Bye-bye.